everybody. Welcome to the Star Season Lightworkers Collective. My name is Crystal, and tonight we are doing a second in a series of the Rosicrucian Order. For those of you who were here with us the last time, we discussed the beginnings of the Rosicrucian Order, and we did some exercises, and we really got involved in what we were trying to learn about this mystical tradition. And we welcome back tonight Dr. Hugh McCaig, who is going to be leading us through the second part in this series. So without further ado, hello, Dr. McCaig. How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you, Krista?
I'm doing fine.
Excellent.
Yeah, so I just wanted to know if you could basically walk us through again a little bit about who you are and what you do and what we'll be working on tonight.
Yeah, I'll say some things about myself and some things about the Rosicrucian Order AMORC, and then we'll get into the topic of the temple. I've been a student of the Rosicrucian Order for 4 decades, and essentially my entire adult life. It's one of the things that was greatly important to me throughout my life, and very pleased and satisfied that I made that choice early in life and could build. I'm a background mathematics and statistics. I work as a statistician at the Institute for Social Research at York University.
Okay.
One of the beautiful things about being a statistician and consulting is you get to work on all sorts of wide-ranging projects. I've been dealing with things that are in psychology and business, but also in various forms of public health, various aspects of the sciences. So it's quite conducive for being a Rosicrucian, of that all-embracing exposure to knowledge, which is in the tradition of the Rosicrucians. I've also did graduate work in art and art history, so you'll see some of that coming out when we talk about temples tonight. And in terms of the Rosicrucian Order AMORC, I'll put some in a moment. I'll paste some links in the meeting group chat that people want to check out.
Sure.
The Rosicrucian Order AMORC is a cultural, educational, philosophical organization. It's AMORC, the AMORC acronym stands for Ancient Mystical Order Rosicrucis. So it's a mystical order. By mysticism, though, we mean the direct experience of the divine. We mean the full maturation of the human being. We mean the direct contact without any intermediary, such as a priest, as that full intimate experience. And the emphasis, as well as on the talk tonight, will be on not only the temple, but the mastery of life. And by mastery, the Rosicrucians don't mean domination. They mean living in harmony with all levels of our being, from our mental, emotional, our psychic, our intellectual, and overall spiritual, but also in our relations with others and the environment and the totality. And there's weekly lessons in the Rosicrucians and stages of initiation that one goes through. And a very strong emphasis in the Rosicrucian tradition with the weekly lessons is to put it in practice. So we'll do some mystical exercises tonight, as well as ways. Rosicrucians also, meditation is a central practice. It's a central practice of spirituality in general. But also with that, one learns methods of visualization, working with different vowel sounds that some would call mantras, and working with various, what was referred to as subtle centers in the body, psychic centers. The visualization also with creating, or mental creating, was like this, and many other exercises are learned in the Rosicrucian tradition to practice. And we have local affiliate bodies. There's one in Toronto, for example, where there's public meetings people could go to. I've put links in there for Rosicrucians in Ontario, Toronto Lodge. That's the local affiliate body of the Rosicrucians. And also there's a more general link, rosicrucian.org, or the Rosicrucian Order AMORC. People want to find out more about the organization, in addition to what I'm saying in this series of presentation and workshops we're doing with you.
Yeah, sure. That sounds great. So, if you don't mind my asking, I'm curious. What you said that you've been studying with the Rosicrucians for about 40 years of your life. What was it that actually? What was the tipping point? What happened with you that you decided that, okay, this is it. This is for me.
Yeah, definitely. It can vary. For some people, it's that the strong sense that they see the Rosicrucians have various techniques for attaining mastership or living, not only mastering one particular art or science, but the life itself, the way of living.
Mm-hmm.
For myself, for some people, it's a very deep sense of, oh, there must be more to life. I want to get a deeper sense of meaning in life. For me, it was certainly all those things, but there was very profound spiritual and mystical experiences I had, particularly when I was 19 years of age, and then following up on that, that led me to seek out those who could tell me more about that and what these deep experiences, some call them cosmic consciousness or consciousness of the all. How do you develop them? How do you apply them? And I could see the Rosicrucians knew how to do that in detail. So that's what led me to them.
Okay, that's great. Well, that's really interesting. And like you said, you yourself work at the Toronto, Ontario location. So if anybody's interested in getting involved with the Rosicrucians,
Yeah,
we have the links below and we have the information to the actual website, so you can just check that out. And I guess people could also follow up and just contact you as well, I guess, right?
yes,
And
it
see
could.
what's happening, because I think that what's happening right now, especially with a lot of younger people, are feeling a little bit disenchanted with the standard religions, and I almost sense that there's also a sense, and people are looking for more of a mystical, more of to be enchanted, really, because we've lost a lot
Yes,
of it. And I mean, look, I have nothing against math and stats, and I mean, obviously work in math and is very scientific, but I think that people want to sort of feel that awe again, and see the world from a different perspective. And so I think that the Rosicrucians is really at an interesting time in this current phase of humanity, where people can really get involved in that. So thank you so much for
yeah.
coming and talking with us about that.
I can add too that one of the things I really appreciate about the Rosicrucians is it helps us spiritualize one's life, and that includes like the yes, very strong inclination towards mathematics. But I've also seen through the Rosicrucians, particularly through the Pythagorean tradition, which is very formative in the development of the Rosicrucians over the centuries, that you can see that the deeper spiritual and symbolic and qualitative form of number and geometry. In fact, we'll be doing some things with that, sacred number and sacred geometry, with the temple presentation tonight as well.
Okay, perfect. So, did you want to start with a meditation? How are we starting tonight? And I know that just to let our viewers know that we will be letting Dr. McCaig do his presentation, and if you have any questions, we can stop for some questions a little bit later, but we will allow him to go through his presentation, especially since we're going to be having certain exercises. So take it away. You.
Okay, yeah, well, Rosicrucians are very practical, and I want you to have an experience of what we're talking about tonight. And I know each piece, with the Rosicrucian traditions, like in the Platonic or Plato tradition, it's a matter of drawing out from ourselves the wisdom that's already there. We have great wisdom in our bodies, but we also have great wisdom through the mind and overall nature. So we'll do an exercise now, which will relate to the concept of the temple, which I'll describe more after the presentation.
Okay.
And then we'll have another chance to do another mystical exercise and meditation to do with the concept of the temple. I'll stop along the way for questions and answers.
Sure.
And I'll give a basic overview of the meaning and definition of temple, and things that you're familiar with already, but maybe add a few things, and we can discuss that further. Then I'll talk about a particular painting, which I'm going to put up right now to inspire us as part of our meditation period. It's actually by a Rosicrucian artist named Nicomedes Gomez that you'll be seeing right now. It's a very intriguing work of art, and it's entitled, translated from the Spanish, "The Temple of the Human, or Know Thyself." And you'll see in it various applications of the temple, from the temple of the human body, but also the built form of the temple, but also the temple of God or the divine, the cosmos. And so what we'll do right now is I invite you to close your eyes, and we'll do a special meditative breathing exercise. It'll be a variation of ones that we do weekly in our lessons with the Rosicrucians. And so I invite you now, having looked at this inspiring work of art that elevates the mind and intrigues us greatly, but also calls forth a deeper inner response. In a way, in this artwork, we're looking at our spiritual form of ourselves. In a way, it's a map of our being before us. So I invite you to just close your eyes now and just let go of the cares of the day and just follow your breath, what Rosicrucians refer to as neutral breathing, neither holding the inhalation nor holding the exhalation. Just view this as a mini retreat this evening to get recharged, re-energized, and rested, because meditation has all those wonderful health-giving functions to them. And I invite you to breathe a little deeper than usual, if it's comfortable for you. And with the incoming of the breath, you can breathe in what Rosicrucians refer to as the vital life force, also known in other traditions as the prana or the chi. And with that incoming of the air, we take in the oxygen, the nitrogen, and various chemical constituents, but also the very subtle energy of the vital life force. And you may feel a tingling as you take in that fresh air and more of the vital life force. And it's an enriching tingling, not the tingling like pins and needles, where we saw it use the expression or part of our body has fallen asleep and it's like prickly. In this case, it's just the opposite. We're getting recharged, remade, regenerated. And if it's also comfortable for you to breathe a little deeper than usual, also to extend your exhalation a little longer than your inhalation, to the degree that's comfortable, because something very special happens when we do that. We stimulate the great vagus nerve by those extended exhalations. We know this through the Rosicrucian teachings handed down through the centuries, but also through modern scientific studies today with various types of instruments, including the ECG or the EKG, electroencephalogram, and related. And just feel that relaxation response. But we'll spiritualize it to feel calm, equilibrium, equanimity, imperturbability, tranquility. Each of these different English words have greatly overlapping meanings, but they give us a little different perspective on the subtle experience and enriching experience we're having now. So I invite you just to continue to let go of the cares of the day. Breathe a little deeper than usual. Extend your exhalation longer than inhalation. And feel the building relaxation response, the cumulative effect with each extended exhalation. This way we work with what the Rosicrucians refer to as the holy temple, the holy temple of the body, which houses the mighty master within, the divine within, to use Rosicrucian terms, our deepest nature, our integrated state. There's various traditions of the world have different terminology. Since we're emphasizing the Rosicrucian studies, I'll use some of the Rosicrucian terms, but I'll explain them. As we become more relaxed, many wonderful things happen. One of the important things in life to realize is for us to heal, we need to relax. We need to be calm. I know that's sometimes a tall order when we're concerned about our health, but if we can let go and be calm, it hastens the healing process, mind, body, and our whole nature. Also, other wonderful things happen that the Rosicrucians have known for centuries, but have been verified particularly over the past half century in science, is that the heart rate will slow up when we meditate, we become calm. Our heart becomes more efficient. We have longer pauses between our breaths, which in a way is a wonderful example of the wisdom of the body for living wisely. Because it suggests to us, just like our heart takes breaks between breaths, we can take breaths in our daily life through between tasks, moving from one detailed task or invigorating task, take a break like the heart does, find that we're working more efficiently, just like the heart works more efficiently when we're calm. Another wonderful thing that the Rosicrucians have known is that when we become calmer through meditation, we move into what's referred to technically as optimal heart rate variability. Just continue to extend the exhalation, breathe a little deeper, and feel the enrichment. We don't want our heart in general beating like a metronome, like, for example, one beat each second. We want some variety there because the heart is working with the autonomic nervous system, particularly the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems. And they're a bit like steering a bicycle. We've got the left side and the right side of the handlebars. We steer through the streets and around objects and people and so forth, guiding ourselves masterly through cycling. Same through life. We steer ourselves through the actions of the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems. One is more for action, one is more for contemplation and clarity of mind and reasoning. And when we are calm, we balance them. And we move to heart rate variability. It's a very enriching and ennobling experience. If you find your mind wandering while we're breathing, just bring it back to the discipline of the breath. No need for self-negativity in any of this or in life at all. Just enjoy the gentle rhythm of the breath. Mind wandering is all part of the process. I know at times we may find when we meditate that we're taken aback by how much our mind wanders. It's important to note, though, that the meditation is not causing our mind to wander. It's just that we're taking time now to notice and be sensitive to what's going on in our life and how much our mind is wandering. From psychological studies, we know that on average, people of their minds wandering or going off task about 50% or half the time. One of the wonderful things about this breathing exercise and many other ones that the Rosicrucians teach is that it develops attentional control. We're more able to stay on task. We're more able to stay focused. People don't have to repeat things to us as much. Our working memory improves. All the systems in the body improve. We become more like a well-tuned symphony with all the different musicians working together, different systems of our body. Let's just continue to enjoy the gentle rhythm of the breath. Enjoy the holy temple of the body, housing the divine within our true nature, our full mature nature, our birthright to experience. Just continue to let go, let flow, feel all there is to feel. It's very important in life to let go. I know often we feel like we got to hang tough all the time, but actually that isn't particularly effective. After we've studied and reasoned and felt about things, I think you've found in your life it's time just to let go and let our whole nature, our deeper divine nature, make the overall assessment, because it's our true guide in life. That's why the Rosicrucians refer to us having a master within. You can think of it by any means, but that deep sense of well-being, that deep sense of guidance, that conscience we have in us, our inner guardian. And meditation allows us to be much more sensitive to that deeper part of ourselves, that more whole part of ourselves, and all the things going on within us. You can feel the electromagnetic system of our nervous system at work. We can feel our cardiovascular system at work, flowing of the blood. We can feel our respiratory system at work, the incoming of the air, outgoing of air. In a way, this is traditionally called by the ancients in the medieval period, the music of the body. There's various different types of music, and one is the harmony of the body. Just enjoy the experience, feel it, be enriched by it, be regenerated by it. Have a period of silence together, but just keep following the discipline of the breath. And with each incoming breath, feel that increasing sense of peacefulness and a sense of inner divinity. Soon we'll formally close this meditation period following a breathing exercise. I invite you to continue to use the discipline of the breath in our lives, particularly the extending of the exhalation. Whenever we find something stressful or challenging come up, extend the exhalation. And we can also come back in our memory to this deep sense of calm, what Rosicrucians refer to as peace profound. And that'll draw for that deeper integrated part of ourself, our divine within, has that wise judgment to guide us. In a way we can meditate all the time by keep extending the exhalation, focusing on the divine within and its guidance, enriching, ennobling, regenerating us and all we come in contact with. So at this time, I invite you, if you wish to continue with the breathing exercise, we'll continue with the presentation. We'll talk some more about the nature of the temple, having had this deeper impression of the holy temple of the body and the divine within, the master within the temple. Thank you. So let's talk about the meaning and definition of the temple now that we've had an experience of it. You can also think about inspiring encounters you've had with temples. The Rosicrucian Order AMORC is not a religion, but it helps us understand things of a spiritual nature. And if you have a chosen religion, it helps us understand it more deeply in its sacred text. Or if not, that's fine too. It'll help enrich our lives in all ways. I wanted to say a little bit more about often in looking at spiritual seeking, it's often helpful in whatever languages we know, what are the root meanings of those words? For example, the meaning temple, its derivation or etymology, the substantial part comes from the Greek word temenos, associated with the cut, and the Latin word templum, and that means a sacred demarcated precinct. So most fundamentally, that's what a temple is, a sacred demarcated precinct. There's also been suggestions in the derivation of the word temple in English is from tempus, which is the Latin for time. And one could say, well, temenos templum makes sense to me because it means sacred demarcated precinct, and that in a general sense ties in with my understanding of a temple. But how does time come into this? Well, we can think of a temple also encompasses time. For example, when are rituals held? Many of them follow the seasons of the year, either through the sun, solar, or through the cycles of the moon. And also in the Rosicrucian tradition, that's the case. We have various rituals and ceremonies that are associated with the solstices and the equinoxes, but also there's stages of initiation that start with the new year, a new year ritual, but also the first degree or the first enter into the first stage of the temple. And this is a symbolic use of the word temple. But the initiation takes in a Rosicrucian temple, which I'll tell you more about in a little while. And that goes through the year, month by month, through the degrees of the Rosicrucians. Now, another important aspect, and I'll stop in a little while, we can talk some more about these things, but another important concept in the temple is the alchemical hermetic principle that's important to the Rosicrucians and various traditions I think that you're studying and know about, is the law of as above, so below, known as the law of correspondence, that the microcosm, the mini world, the mini cosmos, going from its Greek derivation, mirrors and matches the macrocosm, the big world, the large world, just as we can think of ourselves as a microcosm, a holy temple in our being. All the laws and principles that are active and actions that are going on inside of us are mirrored in the cosmos. We're increasingly appreciating this when we realize the huge number of cells in our body, the huge number of atoms and molecules, and all the different ways their flows take place, and the vibrations of tradition called music. It mirrors the music of the cosmos. You'll see in my picture here, we've got Cat's Paw Nebulae, but suggestive of the cosmos as a whole. And in the center here is a built temple, particularly the Rosicrucian temple. It's at the Grand Lodge in San Jose, California. And I'll talk a little bit more about it and its Egyptian motifs. There's also an intermediary term, uh, mesocosm, which means an intermediary between the microcosm and the macrocosm. So in a way, when we enter the temple, that's a built sacred form, in a way it allows us as a microcosm to connect with the macrocosm. So there's that linking middle world at the built temple, though sometimes it's referred to as a microcosm as well. Let me say a little bit more about this, and then I'll build it up a little more, and then we'll stop if there are any questions or comments. So we've connected up the body on the left, the built sacred, such as your own body. So this is all the built sacred space. But the built sacred space, in a way, mirrors our body and our being. So in a way, it's like moving allegorically within oneself. And the Rosicrucian Order is an initiatic tradition. It initiates us deeper and deeper into maturity and understanding life. But there's also, as Rosicrucians and as persons developing self-mastery and harmony with all, can be viewed as traditionally, and especially an alchemical way of looking at things, as we're workers in the divine laboratory, which is the cosmos. Cosmos means system and order of the universe. Related to this, we can also think of in a traditional terms that the body is the temple of the master within that I referred to earlier, and that a temple, part of its important meaning, is also as a sacred meeting place, such as a built sacred space like a temple or a mandir, a gurdwara, a synagogue, church or basilica, and so forth. But we can also think of, quite inspiringly, the entire cosmos in the universe as being the temple of the divine or a temple of God. So we see this temple as this interconnecting principle that gives us a very deep sense of interconnection meaning, and also allows us to work out self-mastery, because we work to have a harmony with our being in nature, but with the built form and our communities and people we know, but also with the world around us in the entirety of creation. So at this point, I'll show one more slide and then we'll stop. So we'll think about pulling together what we've talked about here. You could think of, okay, how does these different temples can take the form of the microcosm, such as the human body, the mesocosm, or a type of microcosm, the built landform, and creation of the cosmos come about? The traditional explanation through mysticism is that they're emanations of a divine archetype. Could be, Rosicrucians refer to celestial sanctum, which we'll have a meditation exercise on. Could be the heavenly city, like spoken of in the book of Revelation, the very final chapter. But in other spiritual traditions, Buddhist and indigenous peoples and Hindu, there's a sense of a heavenly city of which everything mirrors. In a way, we're working back to realize that we're citizens of that heavenly city. We're remembering it when we do meditation. When we grow and mature, we're remembering our true nature. That's why it's very beautiful in spiritual experiences. While they can often be very surprising and astonishing to our outer nature, there's a deep sense of rightness and familiarity with them deep down. In a way, we're working back to that divine archetype or heavenly city, which is our true nature. So at this time, I'm just going to stop. If you'd like, Crystal, I can even stop sharing the slides.
Yeah, sure. If you could stop sharing and then we can sort of talk and
okay.
have
So
some.
if you or anyone else like to comment or add
Yeah,
insights on,
sure.
sure.
Yeah, so it's very, very interesting, and it's interesting how we can look at the human body, because a lot of people often say your body is your temple, and so it's kind of interesting how that sort of plays out. And you've actually helped me to sort of see a different perspective here, where the mesocosm. And that's interesting. I've never really, and that makes sense because you're sort of like an intermediary between the micro and the macro. And so that's a very interesting, and we can come back to that. But I do have some interesting questions here. And I wanted to thank Serviceman1 for these questions. So he says here, what are the differences between, say, Thelema or Kabbalistic magic or Rosi? So I know that some people who may follow the Rosicrucian Order also follow different, for example, people who are interested in the ISIS type of magic or any kind of working with mystery schools, that sort of thing. So, and then people have also learned, especially through Aleister Crowley, different aspects of magic. And I know that with the Rosicrucians, it's like you said, it's not a religion. It takes from many, many different disciplines. So for those of people who are not as familiar, maybe we could just sort of just have a quick understanding
Sure.
of these things. So what is the
Okay. Yeah.
difference
No.
between Thelema, Kabbalistic magic, and Rossi?
Well, I can say that the Rosicrucian tradition views itself as passing down and being in the tradition of uh, for example, the Kabbalistic tradition that as an students of the Rosicrucian order have opportunity to learn various things about Kabbalah. They may wish to even concentrate on it in various ways. So that's built in a variety of ways. No, the teachings of Gnosticism or the gnosis, that inner truth, the ancient Egyptian mysteries, the therapeutai or the Essenes and their methods of healing. The Rosicrucians passed down many of their essential teachings, the teachings of alchemy, particularly in its transcendental form, though some Rosicrucians are very interested in the physical alchemy, mirroring the transcendental or inner spiritual alchemy of transmuting our base nature from the lead into the gold of the realized knowledge. In terms of magic, there's various laws and principles of the Rosicrucians that have a kinship with that sense of the expansive transcendental form of magic. The Rosicrucian Order has an affiliated esoteric organization, the traditional Martinist order, and it comes out of a tradition with teacher Martinez Pasquale and the Elukon, or the elect priests of the universe, that followed a tradition of magic and Kabbalah and related. So there's opportunities to learn more about that through the Rosicrucians and the Martinist traditions. Um, the, the magic that I think the person's referring to, it isn't as overtly emphasized in the Rosicrucian tradition, but if someone is quite inclined to that, they can do that as well, because a person is free, Rosicrucian, to belong to other organizations and approaches. And the Rosicrucian laws and principles that we're talking about in this presentation and so forth, they all help and enhance that deeper spiritual actions that he's referring to.
Okay, that's excellent. And you know what? I think sometimes when people think of magic, and especially when they think about Thelema,
Yeah.
Aleister Crowley, that sort of thing, they, I think we're often influenced by Hollywood. We're influenced with this concept
Mhm.
that, all you need to do is learn a couple of, words or tricks, and you can start to have sparkles come out of your fingers. And
Mhm.
I think that, I mean, of course you can help me to understand and help us to understand this, but I think when I think of magic, especially in regards to the Rosicrucian, it's about, like you said, the self mastery.
Mhm.
And it's not so much magic like bibbidi bobbidi boo, that sort of thing. It's
Right,
not
for
that
sure.
sort of thing, and sparkles and Hollywood. Would you want to just sort of comment on that, or sort of
Yeah, no, I agree with you. We're trying to understand what these things are, not in the the popular imagination. Respect everyone, but we're trying to understand the deeper true meaning of these things. I can tell you that the weekly lessons of the Rosicrucians, there's a variety of things to do with mental creation, a variety of things working with the subtle energies of the body, in terms of in terms of manifestations for the well-being of oneself and others. There's what's refers Rosicrucians refer to as the cosmic keyboard. If you can think of yourself in front of a keyboard, but also extending to higher and higher octaves, doubling vibrations. The Rosicrucian exercises and meditation practices allow us to work and play, you could say, the keys of those higher and higher vibrational octaves, way beyond what can be physically measured uh, by science today, really extending like even way beyond the rate of vibration of, say, radio waves or gamma waves and so forth.
okay.
So there's a variety of things to do with manifestations, mental creation, healing, that all are associated with what the person referring to and you're referring to.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, you know what? That's really interesting. But you know what? I'm sure that, like I said, there's no Hollywood magical and sparkles, but at the same time, I think that if you do manage to have self mastery, if you do manage to find yourself, especially someone like yourself, who has dedicated to finding and to working with this sort of practice, while it may not be, hocus pocus,
Mhm.
you can definitely manifest, which in some way is what magic is. It's about manifesting a certain,
Yes.
like if you're a Wiccan or if you're other types of quote unquote magic, it's really about manifestation at the end of the day, as opposed to turning mice into horses for a carriage, that sort of thing.
Yes. Yeah. The Rosicrucian exercises uh, are essentially that nature. And there's I think the questioner and also yourself have in mind. There's the uh, the ancient Greek word it's still used today, theurgy. There's that sense of divine working, God working, and that's something that's very important to the deeper inner spiritual traditions of the Greek philosophers and Plato and how they were initiated in Pythagoras. And that's continued in the Rosicrucian tradition as well. In mysticism, there's two profound uh,
I guess pathways, I
perspectives.
guess, right?
Let's say that there's the path of mystical union, and there's the path of deification. Not self-aggrandizement by deification, but they're both two sides of the same coin, is the becoming the God, the divine worker, the more increasing identification with the divine, but also a great increasing sense of union. So there's a deification and unification. These things beautifully tie together, not as a sense of self-aggrandizement, but more sense of the all and working with the all and being the all.
Okay, that's amazing. And I just have one last question, and I guess after this question, we can move on to the second part of the presentation. And again, Serviceman, thank you so much for asking these amazing questions. They're really interesting. So, at the beginning, we had, well, not the beginning, but, well, yeah, at the beginning, we had a beautiful picture that you showed
Yeah.
us. And he's asking, can you explain the symbolism in the artwork? It reminds me of images that I've seen before in the Thoth Tarot.
Yes,
So,
very much so.
yeah.
In fact, if we can just wait a moment, I'm going to lead up to it. I'm just going to show a few more things, and then we're going to pull it all together by examining that work of art. So we'll do that in a few minutes. We can just hang on. I'll say everything I'm saying in a way is building up to explaining and describing that painting. So it's coming up shortly.
Okay,
That's okay.
great. Okay,
Okay.
great. And yeah, so Serviceman, I saw your comment. You were saying like, we're not talking about sparkles or Hollywood. No, not at all. And that's what I was trying to distinguish.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for your comment. And you're
Exactly.
right, we're not talking about it. Neither did this Aleister Crowley. No, not at all. So I just wanted to sort of confirm that. It's just that I think that sometimes people have that impression. People who have
Yes.
not studied will have that impression, and so it's important for people who are not as familiar to have that distinction. All right, so
Yes.
I'll let you get back to it then.
Okay. Well, we'll share slides again and we'll get
Sure.
underway. Thank you. Okay. So now you see the slide where we left off. So in terms of explaining that painting by Nicomedes Gomez on the temple, I'll show you the next slide. Uh, and that is often the body and the temple plan are related. And that's in the Nicomedes Gomez painting, which we're about to talk about, but this will help us understand that. And you see that in various spiritual traditions. You also see it in the Rosicrucian tradition. On the left, for example, the Christian church is often associated with the human body, with the arms outstretched, for example, if it's a church that's in a cruciform or cross pattern, the arms for the transepts, the lower body for the nave, particularly the abdomen and the heart, place of the altar, but the head also being at the liturgical east end apse, where there may be the high altar. We'll see in Hindu tradition. Here's a traditional diagram based on the Vastapurusha mandala that the yogic figure here. This is a divine being in the yogic position. These sacred geometry would be used to lay out a temple from the Shastras in the Hindu tradition, but also the Buddhist stupa. Often they'll have the way they have their dome structure. There'll be a place where you keep possibly a relic is associated with the seated Buddha figure. And often you'll find in Nepal and elsewhere, they'll actually draw eyes in at this part of the stupa. So it's common to have the human body associated with the built form of the temple, but also that identification that we are a temple that we're building up and being edified in. And let's keep going here. I want to tell you a little bit more about the conception of the temple, and this will also help explain that Nicomedes Gomez painting. what is the concept of temple? How is it helpful to us? Well, traditionally it meant a meeting place of, some would say, heaven and earth, or heaven and the human, how we connect with the heaven. And one of that, or the inner spiritual dimension, or the deepest form of consciousness, the more expansive form of consciousness, the cosmic consciousness. Part of that's done through the symbolism of the celestial mountain. The temple is a celestial mountain that we're rising up. We can think of our lives as, on the mystical path, as journeying up a mountain, each in our own way. Closely related to that is the temple as the cosmic axis, or a pillar joining with the underworld and the earth and heaven. So it's a way that it's a pillar cosmic axis by which the temple helps us draw up into the divine, or realization of the divine. A lot of these are using terms in a metaphorical, an allegorical way for the inner spiritual experience. The waters of regeneration, because often, for example, baptism is very important, or cleansing that's associated with water and various rituals and initiation in temples. And also that a temple in conception is patterned after a divine archetype or a mandala, just as we saw with the Vastapuruša mandala, for example. And I'll show you soon a Buddha stupa that's based on a mandala sign. And also that divine pattern is part of the directions, east, west, north, south, but also sometimes up, up and down to make the 6 directions, and sometimes even center, uh, associated with all from a center, which is sometimes might be surprising, sometimes identified as the seventh direction. So these are all important conceptions of what's going on in a temple and their actions. They can be taken literally, but they're also a degree allegory for inner spiritual actions. Also, in terms of the building, how did a temple, as a built space, particularly thinking here, traditionally, often there's a dream or a vision associated with its design. It wasn't just the architect thinking, or the priest thinking this would be a good way to do it. There was often a vision received or a dream for its design, and you find that in various sacred texts. It could be, for example, the Old Testament, and how King David and King Solomon were divinely inspired on how the temple in Jerusalem be designed. But you see this in other traditions. Also, in the building of a temple, you just, like today, it's often thought, okay, buildings they're just put up. There isn't sort of a purification ritual, or sometimes there's still some ceremonies to do with the laying of the foundation stone, which have their earlier vestiges in sacred architecture. And this process, building would be a process there'd be ritual, there'd be purification and edification to prepare this space and to start building. So you would actually purify the space. I'll give you an example. You may have wondered why in the book of Revelation, John of Patmos is on a high mountain and he has this vision of a heavenly city descending on him. That actually links, he is in a Roman, and what he's actually expressing something he's very familiar with. Because in the Roman world, when the Roman agromesters or surveyors surveyed, before the surveying was done, they would follow certain augury practices. They ultimately come from the Etruscans, and there would be an augur would inwardly see the divine templum in the sky descending and making sacred habitable the space that they're going to lay out the temple or the Roman fort or the city on. Similarly, we know from earlier medieval traditions there would be fasting on a site, particularly around Lent, to prepare a site for being a sacred space for a church, for example. Also, sacred numbers, geometry, and measure were employed by builders, because the builder was to be like the idea that the human is in the image of the divine, that they're a co-creator with God, particularly not in the sense of the capacity to imagine, to be creative, that you'd be a co-creator with the divine, and you would work with number and geometry measure just the way that the divine created the universe. The universe was viewed as a geometrical or mathematical act, and that we were recreating creation in building. And as a builder, a mason, carpenter, you were being edified. You were building up yourself spiritually as you built the temple. We see that in various spiritual traditions. I know from a study of the Middle Ages, they do talk about that in their building. And couple more points and then I'll stop again so we can talk some more. An important part of this is not only conception, what do we mean by temple, but also how does the building come about? How is it divinely guided? How is it using divine measures like the foot measure, for example, or the cubit measure? They're based on the holy temple of the body mirroring the divine creator. So that even the measures were deemed to be of divine origin. But also important in this is how is the temple being used? And that is, it's a sacred space for ritual and initiation, of course, and worship, ascent, to have that enter into that deep peace, that deep sense of one's inner divine nature, one's true nature. It's a path to the inner sanctuary. So that outer space of the temple, it's helping clothe for us through our senses, have an inner realization of this spiritual knowledge within us. In a way, for our outer mind to understand things, it needs to work with sense impressions and with stories and lessons of our sacred texts and our culture. And that's what the church and the temple is doing. It's helping clothe our outer impressions. That outer temple helps us to get into that inner temple, that inner divine realization. It's also a place of learning because that's where you'll see the embodiment of a sacred text and teachings. You can see on many temples, they have elaborate iconographic programs or sculptures to do with their sacred texts, their sacred stories. I'll show some of that coming up when we deal with some of the temples of the world. Uh, it's also a very important part of a temple traditionally. It's the focus or the heart of a community. And often, traditionally, when you look at the cityscape or townscape, what is prominent? It's the temple, and the community is around the temple. The life of the community, its healing is at best around that temple and that divine connection. So, and the temple is designed for its use. It's true. It's there as an inspiring symbol, but it's also designed so that it works well with the ritual. And that's part of the reason we'll have it common to have an Eastern orientation, the symbolism of the East and the four directions in various spiritual traditions. So maybe at this point, I'll stop.
Sure.
We can stop here, and then we'll finally get to the question about analyzing and understanding that temple painting by Nicomedes. Does that sound good?
Yeah, that sounds perfect. That's great. I
Okay.
actually have a couple of questions here, because well, let's start from maybe a bit of the beginning. You're aware of, I'm sure you know Schwaller de Lubitsch, and
Mhm.
I do have this book actually that I picked up called The Temple
Yes, I
of
know.
Men.
Yeah.
And what I found interesting, because you're talking about the temple and you're talking about how it affects people. And one of the things, I mean, I'm not going to go into the whole book, but I would definitely recommend people to maybe check out this book, the Temple in
Yes.
Men.
Yeah, I know the
And
book. Yeah. Thank
yeah,
you.
and I'm just sort of showing it here. So for people who are at home, I'll put
Oh,
it in
sure.
the links below. But specifically in that book, they talk about, as you know, but for our audience, about how the great temples in Egypt were built
Mhm.
based on the human body, so certain aspects of the human body, but also in a way that, and you just brushed upon it right now about how when people are putting up buildings now, they just sort of throw them up and there you go. And especially in the West, we've forgotten that kind of tradition. And what I find interesting is that what Charlotte de Lubitsch is talking about is how the temples really influenced the people that were in the temple,
Mhm.
and how it helped them to find a level. I think, if I understand, it's the geometry within the structure, like where things were placed, that
Mhm.
in many ways changed the energy, which then affected the human consciousness.
Yeah.
So you want to just sort of, I'm not
Yeah.
sure if I'm
No,
explaining it well, but if you want to just sort of just expand
yeah.
on that.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. There's a lot of powerful and subtle things going on, and so a nice compliment to the book you mentioned is one of the books in the resources that we've made available for this presentation. A book by John Lundquist on the temple that he ties in a lot of things that are from the book you were mentioning, and also in various other traditions, and has been part of doing this presentation for me as well. But yeah, you can think of remember earlier how I mentioned that traditionally the concept of music was not only voice of the human voice and the singing or a musical instrument that one might play like a violin or guitar and so forth, but also that the harmonious actions of our body, how our heart is working, how our various vital organs are working, how the various flow of the blood and electrical magnetic energy, the whole that is viewed traditionally as a music. And when it was harmonious, we were healthy. But then also music as a harmonious relationship with our environment. And the idea was that just as music has various ratios, 1 to 1 for the unison, 1 to 2 for the octave, and so forth, those are also can be seen visually. There's a that you can have 2 line segments that are equal lengths of 1 to 1. That suggests the unison. A rectangle is 1 unit high to 2 units. That suggests the octave. Similarly, in designing the Egyptian temples, the medieval churches, and so forth, they're working with these proportions that have a musical action of a visual nature. Just like how we're stirred when we hear an uplifting piece of music. The same thing can go on and how the visual music of fine work of architecture, a sacred work of architecture will lift us up. And I can tell you, for example, just to give an example from the medieval cathedrals and people that sing in them, I remember recently reading an article of a person saying that they're part of a choir in a medieval cathedral, and they've learned how to sing in it so that it actually resonates even more. And they find when they go to sing in other cathedrals, they have to change the way they sing and how the sound reverberates down the aisles and the nave and in the choir. But these are things that would have been known for the earlier Gregorian chant, for example, that the entire cathedral, in a sense, is a musical instrument, not only with visual upliftment, but in the way it works with the auditory music. They all link together. Those are a variety of things. And yes, these Egyptian temples, the Rosicrucian is very important to, and the one that I'm going to show you, the Rosicrucian, is based on an Egyptian temple as a place of initiation. So you want to move up those octaves of the cosmic keyboard. And so that is a musical action in a spiritualized sense that's going on. And the structure of how the design of the church and its proportion and geometry, but also the actions and the geometry and movement in the ritual space. For example, in Rosicrucian rituals, we always move at right angles because the concept of the divine or God geometricizes to suggest that. And the actions, circumambulation, the sunwise direction, these are all sacred actions that work inwardly and also on our outer mind to have the full realization.
Okay. You know what? By the same token, with what you're saying,
Yeah.
and what I brought up with the that was very fascinating, by the way, the whole idea that people have to sing differently, and that makes sense because the way you sing, I guess, would if you're just talking about the way the human voice, the vibration, and how that bounces off the walls, or how that
Yes.
It goes down the aisle, as you say, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense that you would have to sort of change the way you're singing, and it would enhance your enjoyment of the music. Now, on that note, though, and maybe I'm veering off into a conspiracy theory, but a lot of people have said that the Masons, when they built the DC Capitol, a lot of the buildings, a lot of the way the buildings are, aligned along a certain path, the way they, because it seems that a lot of Masons were also members of the Rosicrucian Order and stated a lot of the Egyptian concepts. And so when they were building the U.S. Capitol, the Washington D.C., they were in implementing a lot of these same types of building techniques, which in ways actually affect. They're saying that this is the reason why the United States was very, very powerful. It's the New Atlantis, and that this is the reason why a lot of it is power. And some people, maybe from, if people are not familiar with that, they might be familiar, for example, with the Feng Shui, the Chinese concept of Feng Shui. And so while the concept of just sort of throwing up buildings is, doesn't make sense, it seems to me that when you look at even something like Feng Shui, you'll say, look, if you have a pointed roof, as opposed to like a round one, that sort of thing, it affects people. So in many ways, we're still on the concept of how the human body relates to the environment at a
Yes.
meso level.
Yes.
You know, and I think my question here, I mean, after that, but I think my question here is, what is it that we need to do differently in order to, in terms of how we build buildings, in order to make sure that we are able to thrive in them? Because it seems that right now a
Yeah.
lot of the buildings are just sort of like crappy, and people don't get healthy. I don't know if you wanted to comment
Yeah.
on that.
Yeah. It's good. I mean, on the one hand, there's been it's good to see in some ways there's a raising of conscious humanity because we're much more aware of environmental issues and working in harmony. And this is one of the important lessons of contact of Westerners coming to what some would call Turtle Island here in the contact with indigenous people to have that sense of uh, harmony with nature. But you know, each wisdom tradition has that awareness. In the Rosicrucians, there's an emphasis on what was referred to as experiencing the cosmic, or with the cosmic we mean universal intelligence back of the cosmos and all natural spiritual laws. But once we've had those deep experiences of spiritual nature, of the divine nature, of the entirety, uh, we need to emulate those and express them in our world, in our environment. And that will help us uh, experience and remember those divine experiences. They're those deep teachings that guide us in our life, but they'll also encourage others to do likewise. It's a bit like the analogy, you know, in the high school physics, we have the two tuning forks, and they're both of the same frequency, and one is sounded, and lo and behold, the other one starts to resonate with it in sympathy. A lot of art and architecture is like that. It's like the two tuning forks. It's like to help the inspired experience of the cosmic or of the divine. We need to emulate it, express it. It could be in whatever form, not only building and art, but whatever career we have or expression we have in our family. Express it, enrich and ennoble ourselves and others, and that'll help us to also attune with the cosmic again or the divine again. So in terms of building, yes, there's a lot of these things that are known that have been done from ancient times. We have a lot. I know from some of my graduate work was in architectural history. So there's things that we know, bring back, apply some more in the new way with new materials. A lot of architects are quite inspired, and
Yeah.
some are mystics without knowing it so much because they follow the deep creativity, and so we're finding more and more about what's harmonious with nature, what's uplifting to people. We have the example of our traditions of the past. I see this happening in various ways in city planning and in uh, architecture in general. So it's gradually
Yeah, it's
uh,
coming around, eh?
evolving. Yeah.
Yeah. But you know what though? It's funny because we're talking about how okay it's coming around slowly but surely and all that, but when you look at something, and a couple of weeks ago we had a presentation and the person was looking at symbolism, and they're saying, you know, how is it that NASA, for example, has all this Egyptian symbolism, like, you know, literally symbols and pictures of the Sphinx and certain names and all that kind of stuff. So I would almost argue that this kind of tradition has been going on for a very long time. It's not out in the open, but it's most definitely there when you look at the
Oh
structure of
yeah.
certain buildings. It's definitely
Yeah.
there, and there's a lot of, for the sake of the term, there's a lot of magic in a lot of the important buildings, for example, in the United States. Now, being here in Canada, I don't see it as much here in Canada, and maybe it's because we don't get as much information about it. But even in certain places like like in the United States or the UK, you know, for example, in certain like Paris is sort of set up in such a way that the city of Paris is laid out
Yes.
in certain ways. So there has always been a lot of magic out there, you know,
Oh yes.
lo and
Yeah.
behold. But like, I mean, it's just that they
Yeah.
don't, I think it's just the layperson who's not as familiar with it. But the cities, and when you really go down deep down, there is a ton of magic, you know.
Oh yeah. I would say in terms of things coming back, I mean more people being more
Yeah.
generally recognized and sometimes more overt
Yeah.
and more explicit. But yeah, I mean anything. I mean, about to show you a bunch of some of the inspiring temples of the world. But we could go and walk around your neighborhood and point out things
Yeah.
that have very deep spiritual significance to them that often isn't recognized or is a continuation of it and passed down. it may not be fully aware even in the builders, but it's going on there. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, no, so it's definitely there. I think that, like you said, maybe moving forward, we're going to have more people, let's say, for example, if they're building their house, their personal house, that sort of thing. I know a lot of people now use a lot of feng shui, to like in their house, so I can't maybe change the whole structure of the house, but I can maybe do a little bit of feng shui here and there in order to sort of influence the people and the health and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
at least we're sort of
Yes.
going somewhere. So if we're going to be moving on to now I just have one last question here from
Yeah.
Serviceman. He says, are the correspondences of the Rose Cross and Rosicrucianism the same or different from other orders that utilize this amazing art? I'm not sure if that.
Oh, okay. In terms of the Rose Cross, the Rosicrucian Order AMORC has very specific meaning to it, and some I can mention some of them. Like there's the idea, the rose at the center of the cross is the idea that's our the heart unfolding, but us maturing as individuals. Each petal coming out, latent talents are coming out. We're realizing our full understanding. The two crossbars are like two polarities coming together for a manifestation. The Rosicrucians have what they refer to as the law of manifestation or creation. You have the two polarities. They come together. They form a new creation. The man and the woman forming the child, or the positive negative polarity in a electricity forming the electric flow, or the north and south poles. A magnet forming the magnetic field. These are things, but also there's the element that by way of the cross, we come into different, greater understanding. Greater understanding, we also then have to learn, grow, mature, face ourselves. These are some of the deeper spiritual meanings of the Rose Cross. Other traditions sometimes have some different meanings associated with it. And maybe some of his question will also come up with some comments and answers on it when we look at the painting as well.
Maybe, so for example, from the Da Vinci Code, Rosalind Chapel, that sort of thing. Like there are many. Again, the more you look deep down, the more you're like, wait a minute,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'll let you continue with the presentation, and then we can, I guess, talk about the artwork or whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so we're back to where we started in a way, with the temple of the human, or temple of humanity, and also had the alternative title of Know Thyself. Know Thyself, of course, is an important part of the ancient Greek wisdom tradition, through Plato and the Delphic oracle teachings and so forth. Here you'll see at the bottom, there's 777 is a number here. Now there's a variety of meanings to that. Part of that is an allusion to a key Rosicrucian booklet called Liber, or the Book of 777. It's in your resources for you, link for you. It's a type of meditation exercise that we'll have some time to do a little later on when we're together this evening. The 777 is also, seven is an important cadence to the universe, like 7 days in the week in traditional seven planets, and the association with the 7 notes in the keyboard and so forth. Three,
But I don't
yep.
see the 7-7 here in this picture.
Okay.
Maybe.
It's on mine. It's at the bottom.
Okay, I'm not sure. Did you want to just adjust your screen? Maybe we could sort of show people. Because
I'm not. Okay.
Okay.
Let me try something.
You can just sort of pull in, maybe, or pull out a bit,
Yeah,
and then. No,
me
because
see if
I
I
looked
can-
here to see it, and I don't see it here.
Are you seeing it now? I've made
Okay.
the image larger for you. It's at the bottom.
We're seeing a little bit at the bottom. I'm not really seeing the full 777. Yeah, that's kind of weird.
Okay. Let me stop share for a moment.
Sure.
And let me.
Yeah,
what I
if you
could
could sort of
do-
pull out a bit, then I think if we can see it.
I could do a little bit. Let me just go back to the regular.
No, there it is. Okay, so that we
Edit
can
them.
see. Yeah, I can see that.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
You can see it now.
Yeah, we see it now.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
you see it here where my,
Yeah.
uh,
Mm-hmm.
okay. Let me just stop sharing and go back into that for a
Sure, and
minute.
then we
You'll
can
see
go
for
back. Yeah, at
sure.
least we've seen it, so now we know. Okay, so we can go back
Good.
to the larger image.
Yeah.
Okay.
I will try.
Mm-hmm. But while you're doing that,
Yeah.
I know that maybe we can sort of chat a bit. Are these images the images that were used in the Thoth Tarot? Oh, there it is. Okay, so there we go. Now we can see it. Perfect. Yeah.
You're seeing, okay. And you're seeing pretty much the whole image now, right?
Well,
I've
we
made
we
it,
had it a moment ago, but at least we
I've made
understand
it,
it. Yeah.
okay.
Okay, that's
I
fine.
mean, you can see the top now, right? You
Yeah.
can see the wing, you can see the wings and so
Yeah, yeah,
forth.
yeah. We can see that, but at least we saw the 777 before, so that's fine. So we understand
Okay.
what's happening there.
If you'd like, what I can do is I can, uh,
No, I mean,
okay.
it's fine because we saw it. So
Okay.
like I think we
Okay.
understand what's going
Okay.
on. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Yeah. Because I'm seeing it fine on
Yeah, I
my
know, but
my
it's at
screen.
the pleasures of Zoom and trying to
Yeah,
do,
right. Okay.
yeah.
So you'll see it. You'll see towards the bottom there's suggestion of the human body here. Like there's the skeletal frame.
Okay.
I think you're seeing okay, right? You
Yeah,
see
that we're seeing. Yeah.
like the rib cage, for example, and there's the subtle centers of the body. This could be some would associate with the chakras, but also there's a corresponding what the Rosicrucians refer to psychic centers, which are different but related to the chakras that are worked on in the Rosicrucian exercises. There's also the planetary symbols here. So there's a suggestion of the temple as the human body,
Mm-hmm.
the crown, the uh, and the spinal nervous system, and the autonomic nervous system, the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems, the caduceus symbol here.
Mm-hmm.
That's a traditional mystical symbol for the subtle physiology of the human being. But we see also Gothic windows here, suggesting a Gothic cathedral or a church is identified with the human
Yeah.
body,
Mm-hmm.
but also the built temple here. But also we see up here the stars and the universe. So there's sort of a joining of the different forms of the temple of the divine, the cosmos with its star and stellar background, but also the built form of, say, a temple as a church, such as suggested by these lancet windows, but then the human body. And there's this great radiating of light here that's suggesting that divine a realization, that full tapping into the energy of the cosmos. And there's this harmonious action throughout the human's physical body. The flames are also, though, our trials and challenges, the ailments, the transmutation alchemically that go on to purify us. You'll notice that these are in a series of paintings that are referred to as Nico Mendes Gomez's Esoteric series. They were later in his life. And he typically in them, they're higher than they are wide, and he uses perspective that they all center onto a vanishing point here. Everything connects up with this vanishing point in the
Okay.
way that he's done the perspective. So you get that sense of that coming to the center and being centered.
Is that
The
by
dove
is
descends. Yeah,
oh
go ahead.
sorry, is that by any chance because it's at the top of the painting and on top of the skeleton, is that the third eye by any chance, or am I just
Yes,
sort
it's
of
like
going too far
it's
here?
associated with that. Yes,
Oh, okay. That's where it's
and
radiating.
yeah,
You know.
and you'll see the dove here.
Yeah.
Both we have the sense of the dove descending, but
Mm-hmm.
also ascending.
Mm-hmm.
And the dove is
The
often
Kundalini.
symbol. Yes, exactly, and
Mm-hmm.
associated with the baptism of the Master Jesus or
Oh, okay.
Yeshua in the River Jordan with John the Baptist. That
Mm-hmm.
sense of the the dove in the Rosicrucian tradition has that sense of that spiritual influx, and that
Okay.
also rising up into the realization of the divine. Yeah,
Okay. Perfect.
and there's steps of attainment here. You'll see there's these steps upward as growth and maturity as you go up. These are lower down in the painting. You may not have seen them so well, but there's steps up as you come up to the entrance into the cathedral or the
Mm-hmm.
temple here. Uh, yeah. So you can see it's a very unifying painting. It's connect with these rays. It's sensing a great deal of spiritual energy, but also a sense of unity.
Mm-hmm. And I'm also seeing some symbols here as well. I'm seeing a bit like within near the shoulder area, the Ankh. I think I see the Ankh symbol, and I also see the Om symbol on the right side of
Yeah, you'll see some symbols to do with the planets and also the colors and the shapes associated with the subtle physiological centers in the body. Yeah, and there's the numbers. These 4 levels. You see the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4. As we're rising up in stages of development. Again, they use the sacred number, but also sacred geometry or sacred application of geometry to give this unified expression. Anyway, he's experienced, had a divine or mystical experience, and now he's expressing his experience. So we can actually get a sense of that uplifting experience he had and experience it to a degree ourselves, which is what is crucial. We have a firsthand experience ourselves.
Just out of curiosity, can you tell us a little bit more about Mr. Gomez, just for people who are not familiar?
Yes, for sure.
And
yes.
Was he also a member of the Rosicrucian Order? Just to give us a little bit of background into that.
Yeah, he was a Rosicrucian.
Okay.
Earlier in his life, he was an illustrator. He also did a variety of paintings and sculptures. Partway through his life, he became a Rosicrucian. He served in the Spanish military and was involved with the Spanish Civil War. So for a time, he lived in exile in France. Okay. But later, he was able to come back to his beloved Spain and Cartagena. The story of Don Quixote was very important to him, and he also illustrated it. Many of the spiritual traditions of Spain, particularly to do with the Roman Catholic Church, he did very beautiful paintings of his spiritual, mystical nature. With his studies in the Rosicrucians, he wanted to do a series that are associated with this booklet, Liber 777, that I mentioned, with the meditation exercise. So he did that. He was active with a Rosicrucian affiliated body in Cartagena. There's been exhibits of his work in Cartagena and the municipality of Cartagena in Spain. They actually house some of his esoteric paintings. So he's greatly beloved in Spain, and that part of Spain in particular.
Okay, that's really interesting. And so he spent most of his life, I guess, in Spain. And so there was a Rosicrucian order in Spain, in Cartagena, in Spain. Yes?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
But part of his challenge was that he did have to live in exile away from his beloved Spain.
Okay.
Because of the way, he was a military officer during the Spanish Civil War and the way things had happened. But he loved Spain. He wanted what's best for it, and he was able ultimately to return.
Okay.
But of course, he was greatly enriched by France. His partner was French, so he had the various, like for example, when he was having to leave Spain and helping take some military with him, the person suddenly it was at night suddenly stopped their car, got out, and handed him a case, and he thought, well, this is unusual. This person just suddenly stops their car and hands me a case, thin case. He thought, well, is there chocolates in here? Opens it up, and it's actually brushes and paints. And that was sort of for him a great sense of outwardly that, yes, I really need to continue to follow art as my calling in life.
Wow. Whoa. So somebody just up and in a car drove up and
he
said,
was leaving. Yes, while they were having to leave Spain, this person came up and gave him those works. Now, he'd already been involved with art, but, he was in this turmoil of having to leave his beloved country and live in exile, and all the hardships that went on for Spaniards during the Spanish Civil War.
Yeah.
He and the others with him are all sorting and assimilating that, and he's re-examining his life and how he should live. And this was just a great affirmation for him outwardly.
This is a celestial message for somebody to just sort of pop up and say, here you go, here are a couple of brushes.
Yeah.
That's kind of, exactly. I don't know, there's something going on there. There's like a higher message thing going on there. I don't know.
That's how he understood it. Yes, he felt deeply, and I greatly appreciate why.
No, I wouldn't mind somebody coming up and giving me some brushes, but anyways.
All right. Yeah, okay. We can, so what I can do now, if it's good, is I can talk about some, in a somewhat brief way, but still I'll make various profound share various insights of profound nature about some great works of architecture, and then I'll do a recap, and then we can have some more discussion. And have a meditation period as well.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. So this will help us with our tuning with the Celestial Sanctum, the artwork by Nicomedes Gomez. And so at this point, people have probably been wondering, well, what does a Rosicrucian temple look like? And we saw a little bit of that, but I just want to tell you a little bit more. For example, here, and similar to a degree is the temple that's in Toronto, the Toronto Lodge, where I attend and
Is this a
participate.
picture of the Toronto Lodge right now?
Nope,
No.
nope, but there's some
Oh,
similarities,
okay.
particularly to the interior, to the Toronto Lodge. This is the one that's at Rosicrucian Park in San Jose, California.
Okay.
This is so this is during the day, and you can see it's modeled on Egyptian architecture,
Mm-hmm.
which was associated with the nature. And there's various plants, some from Egypt, that are planted there in that Mediterranean climate of
Mm-hmm.
San Jose, California. And you see there's an association with lotus and
Yeah.
also in nature. So the Egyptians are working with elements of nature to make their pillars.
Mm-hmm.
And we at Rosicrucian Park, we've done similar. And here's a view at night to give you a different sense of what it can
Oh,
look like.
that
Yeah,
is absolutely stunning. That's stunning.
yeah, it gives you the sense of the cosmos above,
Yeah.
which the temple is associated with inside. And you can see
Um,
the Egyptian figures here
mhm.
greeting us to enter the temple.
Absolutely. Now, I did have a quick question though, because we
Yep,
were talking about how I brought up the whole idea about Shwala de Lubitsch and how
yep,
the Temple of Man was literally built around the
yes.
energy of making sure that the certain aspects of the temple were built to inspire the occupants.
Yes,
Is that what's happening here at the San Jose, California? Did they
yes,
actually not
essentially,
just build and just have a couple of, lotus in the front, but did they actually make sure that the building was literally built in such a way and facing due north, that sort of thing?
there's various things like that that they did. Yes,
Okay.
yes. So, and you do, when you go into this temple, you feel it.
Okay.
And part of it is, it gets very charged in a psychokinetic way, but also the way the symbolism, which I'm
Hmm.
going to show you a little bit more because we're about to go inside,
Yeah.
so to speak.
Okay, great.
And yeah, here's a view. This is the towards the the east and the symbolic east, and you'll
Hmm.
see various scenes to do with murals of ancient Egypt that I'll zoom in on a few. Um, Here is also the vault of heaven above us,
That
and
is
it's background.
absolutely stunning. That's
Yeah,
beautiful. Yeah.
you can see down here uh, symbolism, for example, to associate with Ignatin and the rays of the life-giving sun coming here. Um, there's this is the Shekinah, which I'll zoom in. And the Shekinah, it's true, is that uh, Hebrew word means the presence of the divine in our midst. And so we'll zoom in here. This is an important place as part of, so you can see the rose cross on it.
Hmm.
There's the three candles that are part of the symbolism associated with light, life, and love. Um, there's various ceremonies and actions that take place here. And then you can see lit in the background the symbolic east, but also the vault of the heavens above.
The three candles represent what again? Sorry?
Light, life, and love. So they're applying the law of triangle again.
Okay.
That that to sustain love in our life or its expression, we have to have life and light. So we have to have that vitality of health, that infusion of the vital life force enriching us, but also we have to have light, the knowledge, to know how to apply them well. And when they're blended perfectly, the love will flow from us.
Okay. Thank you.
And so, yeah, there's a rich symbolism. I'll talk about some of it here. This is one of the murals that we're zooming up, and it was through a Rosicrucian artist who actually was working at Los Angeles County Museum of Art, one of the renowned art centers in the world and United States. And we see here Isis and Nefertiti.
Hmm.
So Isis here and Nefertiti. So I should say here Nefertiti and Isis, and here an attendant of the Pharaoh Nefertiti or the Queen
Hmm.
Nefertiti. But part of the important meaning of this is that in mysticism, we're drawn, we talked earlier about deification.
Hmm.
This is the Nefertiti and Agnat and Tutmos III and T and so forth were associated as divine beings. Their initiations as sovereigns allowed them to have that higher state of divinity or realization coming through them. In a way, each of us is called to that to be associated with the divine. When we do our meditation, we move more into the divine, and this is an allegorical way of understanding that. Each person will understand this in their own unique way. I can show you another mural if it's okay now.
Yeah, actually, before you do though, I did notice
Okay.
here the attendant on her head, and what she's holding seems to be blue lotus. And
Yes, they
as
are.
well
That's
around
important.
the neck of Isis also seems to be sort of like a larger blue lotus. I know
Yes.
that the blue lotus, some people say that it might have been a narcotic, or but it's a way to open up the third eye, and because I know that sometimes people misquote what's happening in some of these traditions. And it's not so much that it's narcotics for I mean, it could be for pleasure as well, but it's also used as a way to open up people's third eye, to open them up. And did you want to comment on the Blue Lotus? Which actually, oddly enough, because we have a presentation coming up on the Blue Lotus in October.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
good. Yeah.
yeah, I hope you'll attend.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Well, one thing certainly about the lotus, for not only in India but in Egypt as well, there's some parallels with the rose in the sense of that there's that, the lotus grows in the muddy water, but it comes up beautiful. Just like in our own life, we have the challenges and stresses and hardships and frustrations, but as we mature and learn from them and master them, for self-mastery, there's that beautiful creation of the lotus. And the blue, of course, has that association with the sky and the heavens and that expansiveness with it. And yeah, the associations with the third eye are important here as well. You'll see with each figure, particularly here with Nefertiti and her being a ruler of both the Upper and Lower Nile. She partakes of symbolism of both the Upper and Lower Nile with the cobra and the
Sun disk
vulture.
there?
Yes,
Yeah.
sun disk is important here as well. And with being part of some would call it the solar cult, but I mean called in the ancient sense of it being the recognition of the sun as the great symbol of our own inner spiritual sun and realization.
Yeah. Now, around the neck of Isis, is that also Blue Lotus? Or it looks kind of tired. I don't know.
It does. That's a good question. I think it may be one that's closed, and
Closed up a bit. Yeah.
but it will be opening up.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, it's quite inspiring. You'll find some similar motifs in our next one as well.
Okay.
I can show you. And this is one that's known as the laying on of hands. And part of the reason I wanted to show it, because in a way, the Rosicrucian traditions today teach various methods of healing. Some through what some would call remote healing or at a distance, but also contact healing with laying on of hands in specific ways. We learn how to work with the subtle energies of the vital life force in the body, channel that healing. It's emphasized particularly for family members and others under certain extraordinary circumstances. But here you can have this picture here that's associated with an initiation of the pharaoh. There's a laying on of hands, and you can see the all-seeing eye of Horus here. But there's also the channeling of energy and the transfer of the sovereignship to the one being initiated. Again, this has a value to ourselves because we're called in a way to be sovereigns, to be masters of our life, to see all creation as our concern, like a sovereign. Yeah.
Okay.
You'll see the symbol, of course, is the eye of Horus, the all-seeing eye of Horus, but also the libations here, the burning of the incense, the transmutation, and also the Ankh symbol.
Okay.
And part of it I can zoom in on here to tie in with the Rosicrucian lessons, particularly in the thumb. The first two fingers of both the left and right hand are very important in the Rosicrucian traditions in channeling the vital life force within our bodies, our own healing, but that of others of our family member. And sort of a similar matter is going on in this image here. These are taken from ancient Egyptian images that the artist Diane Beauvais-Soleil used with a group of Rosicrucians working with her to transfer them onto the walls of the Grand Temple in San Jose, California.
Okay. Very interesting.
So at this point now I'll go briefly into several other temples where we have our meditation. But tie in things that we've got to see how it works in a worldwide, in a certain sense, universal form. I know many people are interested in traditions of indigenous peoples, the many nations on Turtle Island or North America here. One of the great spiritual traditions associated with the temple on this North American continent is the sun dance of the various plains indigenous people, but I'm here particularly noting the Sioux, more specifically the Oglala and Lakota Sioux. Many of these descriptions have been described by the holy person Black Elk. I've heard others firsthand give their accounts of the Sundance, but again, the Sundance Lodge that has a central cottonwood structure here, which in a way is symbolic of Wantatonka or the god or the divine. It has in it a cottonwood. There's various ways that it's gathered and who gathers it, and they form a circular structure with 28 poles. Part of the symbolism of 28 is the 28 days in the lunar month, but others, so they're working with sacred number. An entrance in the east, and the dancers would move sunwise. And the dancers, I think people know, they're connected by buffalo hide to their chest with typically traditionally with eagle talons, which would be dug right into their flesh of their chest. And they would be connected to the center of creation that way as they dance. And there would be a whistle that they would blow, and they would go through the day, and there would have to be a purification done beforehand to be able to enter this sacred space. But the image down below is a drawing by an indigenous person, Sioux person, of the whole community would come out, and it would be the healing for the whole community, this annual event. And here you see all the profound elements of a temple and ritual and symbolic diagram at work. And it has that, that the idea is the dancers would go over days, and it'd be a demanding activity often out in the intense sunlight and into the night. Well, they're attached to the central pole. In a way, it's like the outer self being attached to the divine within, and again in a strong way. But also everyone participating in it would also partake of this sacred event and divine influx. And it would be a singular or most sacred time of the year. And it would be a period of healing, not only for the dancers, but all involved.
And there's a definite relation to the temple that we're seeing here, and the way because I could see that the entrance is at the east. Does that make a difference?
Very much so. Yes, they're working very much with the sun directions, the time of the day, how the persons would be prepared to do the dance, and they would be strongly tested, and there would be the whole nation, or like their whole group of the whole nation around them would be in a way there supporting them in what they were doing. They'd be feeling what they're feeling. It would be a communal experience. But again, it's centered on Wankatonka or the divine, which is what we're called to be centered on our deepest, more spiritual nature. But this outer action of the dance would help the dancers realize that. They'd have that deep inner experience in themselves that they could take for the rest of their life. Black Elk experienced that, and others that I've known have spoken up on the importance of it. And again, something beautiful about this is that it's following their traditions. It's what their grandparents, their great uncles, and it was passed down to them, and as it was passed down to the generations, it's that wisdom that culture has at its best. You keep in culture at its best is expression of wisdom. Other parts can be let go of, but it'll be passed down using our environment, our language, specific to our community.
Okay.
So in a similar way, some of my family live in India, and born and raised there, and they're Bengali through my partner. And some of them live in Mumbai, earlier Bombay, but now back to its earlier name, Mumbai. And off the coast, or off the Mumbai in India, there's the island of Elephanta, which you'll see it, and it's known as the Island of Caves. And it's also a UNESCO World Heritage Site because it has these wonderful rock-hewn temples. They're carved out of the living rock. You see that in various parts of the world. So apart from certain exceptions, they're digging into the rock face. It's not like they're cutting squared ashlar and piecing it together, with certain exceptions. They're digging in here, so they have to work accurately and precisely, because you can't redo things here.
Okay.
So it's and this, so you get a scale. This is one of the main temples on Elephanta, and it dates back to the 5th and 6th century. So in the Western world, the early medieval period, and it's from the Kalachuri dynasty, and they've cut from a solid basalt rock.
Okay.
And as you move into it, you get this deep spiritual sense of the symbolism of a cave. Yes, as I'll show you here.
Sure.
It was very inspiring to visit this. But you can also see very large sculptures. It's dedicated to the Lord Shiva. And and you'll see the lingam back here, which is that cosmic axis we talked about here. There's the fertility and the aspect of it, and part of creation associated with the yoni and the lingam of creation, of that law of triangles coming together in creation, but also the cosmic axis, that this cave temple is a center of the cosmos, symbolically, that we're entering into that in ourselves as well. You see the very fine sculpting work on the pillars. And then if you come in many people who haven't been there, you may recognize this. This image became quite well known through Joseph Campbell, the English professor, who talked about interpretation of myths and his Power of Myth series.
Yeah.
That was on PBS in earlier years. They had a great zooming in on this. We see here Trimurti, the Sadashiva, the three-faced Shiva. And it's a huge work when you come before it. It's actually about 20 feet high, or 6 meters. It really strikes you. And it's got the 3 heads that are symbolic of creation, protection, and destruction. And you'll see the figures have both masculine and feminine qualities, so that unity, but also convey a great sense of compassion, wisdom, inner peace. And this would be part of pujas or rituals that would be done before it, and various other, the lignum that I showed you earlier. So this was.
But this is actually quite interesting. I sort of just wanted to sort of jump in here a bit.
Sure.
In terms of the in India, I know they use something called Vastu Shastra, which is a type of, if you will, something similar to what they use in terms of Feng Shui in China. And that also is very reliant on the temple being conducive for certain energies, that sort of thing. And I find it very interesting here in the statue about how you have the feminine and masculine qualities. And so that leads to also, in terms of self-mastery, would you say it's about mastering your feminine and masculine side in order to be like a whole human? You know what I mean?
Very much so. Yeah. Yes, very much so. Yeah, it's about, a lot of this tradition is a part of letting go of who we're not and being fully ourselves. And that there's this great energy, great sense of well-being, more capacity to understand and appreciate others, a great deal of tenderness, but also can act within an assertive way as needed.
Yeah. I just had a quick question from Anna here. She says, was Stonehenge a kind of a temple in that sense? And in relation to the other picture that you showed, which you had the round house made out of the sticks. And would you say that Stonehenge was this kind of temple? Because of the shape?
I would. I mean, there's been a lot of work done on Stonehenge and trying to understand it, and seeing that and there's been a lot of archaeological work to see that there was feasting going on there around the winter solstice, and its alignment. It has an alignment. It's true with the sunrise on the summer solstice, but that also aligns it with the sunset on the winter solstice. So I mean, recently we've seen, it's got stones that are from Scotland, but also from other part of England. It's also viewed now as a great center that was unifying England. But yes, I think we can say enough. We don't have the, often the written text that we have, for example, with Hindu temple associated like this one or some of the medieval cathedrals. We don't have the written text, so to speak. But yes, I think I would say yes, definitely. And it has a profound effect when you visit these stone circles. I've done some of that myself as well in traveling and elsewhere. But yes,
sure,
great idea. So another great temple I'll show you as we work towards a later stage of our presentation. I know some of you may have been at this. Is the Great Stupa Borobudur in the island of Java in Indonesia, and you can see it is a mountain. It's understood to be built on a natural hill, but it also has been built up to be a mountain. And I'll give you another view of it here. But you can see off in distance here, it's built from volcanic rock. There's actually 2 million blocks of andesite, which is a type of volcanic rock, and you can see volcano in the background here. So it's using those great flows of the volcano to actually build this structure. And here's another view of it, and you can get a sense of, the temple as a sacred diagram. Well, scholars have argued various types of Buddhist mandalas that, which Buddhist mandala was actually used for this this temple. But when you walk up in it, you see it goes from square world, which is associated with form, into a circular world, which is associated with formless. So in a way, we're going from our outer nature, our outer senses, deeper and deeper inside ourselves, our psychic senses, and our overall spiritual sensing. And we're going to go up into this area. But I want to show you also a view down. If you just look down on it,
I was just about to say that it looks almost like a yantra, which is sort of like these symbols that they use.
Yes. And you can see by the symbolism of the sculptures in here, there's been put forward by scholars, some possible specific mandalas, not only just the mandala in a general sense, but some specific mandalas that are used in the Buddhist tradition. But just looking at it here, you get a sense it's meditative and contemplative just to look at this diagram. It starts to center you. It starts to calm you. And there'd be passageways up, and you'd move sunrise around the temple, moving up each level higher and higher to reach the state of the beyond formless and one with the one, the mystical union here. But to show you on the way up, you go in along the square part, and you pass by various scenes to do with the incarnations of the Buddha. In a way, it's like our incarnations. Here he's cutting his hair to renunciation. He's leaving the palace because he's left. He went out from the palace. He had those experiences of the suffering humanity. He says, "I'm going to renounce
all my worldly goods or something.
I'm going to go and let go of those, and I'm going to concentrate on the spiritual path." And so you can see his servants are still working with him here on that. But it shows scenes from his life that are very conducive to what we have to go. You even show his earlier incarnations, how he's learning and growing, and how he's becoming gradually over time more and more spiritually orientated and balanced. And so they show scenes of his life and starting the teachings of the wheel of Dharma in motion. As you go up, there's figures that appear very daunting or some would say scary. But the idea is, if you see these figures as you go up to the next level, if you can see them and embrace them as part of the challenges of life, and embrace them, you're ready to go up to the next level. You've passed what some would call the tarot of the threshold.
Okay. And I did have an interesting question here, which I was also wondering about myself. Serviceman is saying, are you saying these temples in India, or this temple, the one you showed before, I think it was the first one you showed us, the inside with the pillars. Are you saying this temple in India is Rosicrucian in design and execution?
No, at this point, what we're doing is we've talked about a Rosicrucian temple and some Rosicrucian concepts of the temple, but now we're using that understanding to understand temples of the world. And so part of the beauty of the Rosicrucian laws and principles, it helps us to understand things universally. So we're going to look at things from the writings of the Hindu or Buddhist traditions.
Yeah.
But we're also going to use the advantage of the Rosicrucian laws and principles to understand. So no, these are not what I've been showing you. The Sundance Lodge, the cave temple on the island of Elephanta to dedicated to Lord Shiva, and now this Buddhist stupa. They're not Rosicrucian temples, but as a mystic student or as a Rosicrucian, we can have deep insights into, being a mystic. We can see, we understand what other mystics of the world are doing. We have that opportunity to see more deeply into what they're doing.
And just sort of on that note, though, because Anna, I have another person here, Anna, who's asking a question, which I totally believe. Anna says here, I'm certain these structures are antediluvian and not built by humans, but that's just my bias. There's a lot of information that, for example, Graham Hancock talks about the lost civilization, a civilization that came before the Younger Dryas, and that when we had the massive flood, there's an actual scientific proof that there was a big flood that happened because of, ice that melted very, very quickly. I'm not going to get into the whole thing, but at a time when Atlantis was there, and Atlantis would have shared its information with different parts. So, for example, with Lemuria or ancient Egypt or the Inca, the Maya, that thing, all that. I think that, and I'm really, I agree as well, Anna. Thank you. I agree that a lot of the information on how to build temples, especially in Egypt, came from Atlantis and came because they had a much deeper understanding and a much bigger respect for that type of technology that was there and was shared around the world, because Atlantis wasn't just like one place in the middle. That's culture was shared. If you can sort of, for example, say the United States, the United States is just in one place, and yet American culture has been spread throughout the planet. And I think that Atlantis probably had that sort of effect on the rest of the world, which is what we're beginning to discover. And so that information would have gone out there, and that's why a lot of and obviously, if you share your information with other people, they do their own spin on it,
Yes.
that kind of thing. So I think that that's definitely something that resonates.
Yeah. No. Thank you, Anna and Crystal. And I can tell you that in the Rosicrucian tradition, Atlantis is an important part of the tradition that is associated with not only ancient Egyptian mystery schools and Akhenaten and Tutmos III and Tia and Nefertiti, but also that association with Atlantis and the passing of traditions. And certainly in our own mystical experiences, we come into a deep sense of knowing that's timeless and eternal, that beings have experienced since time immemorial.
Yeah, but also just one last thing as well. Not only, for example, with the pyramids, were they built in such a way and the temples were built in such a way that influenced humans, but also the type of material that they were using, because it seems that the pyramids were built with stone that was very, very fused with crystals, and they have a high crystalline content, which is also helping to enhance the energy within the pyramids. Is there an indication that different cultures also used specific materials in order to enhance its effect on human beings?
Yes, there is actually, and you can see a lot of these places also were painted, and they had the painters come off. So the color symbolism, but also the vibrations of the color was important, and the materials that were mixed in the pigments are part of that as well. So it's a holistic experience, and the concept of the crystal is an important one. I agree.
Yeah.
In a variety of ways. Yeah. I can show you the top area here too. That'll tie in with the things that I think you and Anna have been perceiving, and others, as we've made it to the top here, the land of the region of the space formlessness. Now, normally you wouldn't see the Buddha like this, but pieces of come down over the centuries. Some have been reassembled or have lasted well. But this originally there would have been this mini stupa like you see here.
Okay.
There's 72 of them at the top, and that's an important symbolic number. Would have been here, and each one of these mini stupas has a Buddha inside with a different teaching gesture. The sacred gestures are very important, and associated with passing down of ancient teachings. And at the very top on the singular one here, it's understood that it's doesn't have a Buddha inside, but it's in a sense the place of complete transcendence, of the complete formlessness. The one has risen up, let go recently of the central nature, the outer nature, going deeper and deeper into understanding. You'll notice the little spirals of the hair locks on the Buddha's head that are also following sunwise direction, but also the cosmic energy associated with his being, and the placement of the third eye here as well. And he has his renunciant's robes here, but also that are very thin. They're showing the great radiation of light from him. So this is quite, it's quite an amazing initiation and culmination to rise up this mountain of Borobudur.
Well, there's a couple of things that I'm seeing here. Well, first of all, the number 72, that seems to be a bit of a power number. So we're also in implementing numerology as well, like for example the 72 names of God, that sort of thing. And but as well, you're saying that all these different Buddhas have different hand gestures, like mudras, I guess, right?
Correct.
Correct. And I mean, just last but not least, and I just always have to sort of bring in the extraterrestrial aspect, but they look a little bit like Vimanas. Just my 2 cents, you know?
Okay. It's a concept of contact with all beings. All sentient beings. So yes, there's a lot, and you'll notice the lotus that's at the base of the stupa. So we'll have that symbolism again here as well, of the unfolding nature of the rising up, the beautiful white lotus, for example, purified from the muddy waters of challenges of living. And I'll show one more building. And this is one that's coming into the Western world, thinking, of course, of St. Paul's Cathedral in London, England. It's 111 meters high, or 365 feet. Some identify there may have been an intention to have it 365 feet because the builder, or the main designer, Sir Christopher Wren, was a professor of astronomy for 365 days in the year. So that may be part of it. 158 meters long, or 518 feet long. And it's an English Baroque building. And Sir Christopher Wren was, in a way, a polymath. He's not only a great geometer that he used to help design this building, but astronomer, natural philosopher, as they say in those days, for a person who was well versed in science. He worked with his friend Robert Hooke to help design the dome, which I'll tell you a little bit more about. And he was also a traditional Rosicrucian. So not a specifically a Rosicrucian building, but he was a traditional Rosicrucian. And of course, he was a contemporary of the mastermind, who was also a traditional Rosicrucian, Sir Isaac Newton, who was greatly interested in the temple. And just as Sir Isaac Newton was greatly interested in the temple and writing about it, so was Christopher Wren, thinking he was recreating the temple of Solomon on earth for London. And this would be a great center for not only London, but also the entire nation. And we'll move inside, and you can get a sense here of the sacred use of color, number, and other forms of symbolism. If we move in and we look down the liturgical west down to the liturgical east, I know some persons who are Masons may be quickly struck by the alternating black and white squares that are often done in earlier and later Masonic temples. And Sir Christopher Wren was a Mason, in addition to being a traditional Rosicrucian. They're working with marble. They're getting stone from the Isle, a type of limestone. Whoops, I jumped ahead intentionally. So let me go back here.
Okay.
So he's getting a Portland type of limestone from the particular Isle of Portland. That was very important for major buildings in England.
But you know what's
by water.
But you know what's interesting about Isaac Newton and many of his contemporaries, apart from being Rosicrucians or Masons, a lot of them are also alchemists. And alchemists were, and that's funny how in a lot of these books that talk about, especially a lot of school books that talk about Isaac Newton, they don't mention any of that. There's a lot of stuff that's been sanitized and cleaned up. And I think that if we really found out a lot about Isaac Newton and many of his contemporaries, we'd be surprised about how much alchemy and magic and all that stuff that was being used. But it's just that everything's always just been cleaned and sanitized, and we never know about it. But now we're starting to find out that he was.
Yeah, good point. Now, part of his being a Rosicrucian was part of his interest in alchemy as well. What's been really fortunate is, I would say, particularly intensively for the past 40 years, there's been many scholars in England, United States, Canada, and elsewhere. They've set up websites. Many are associated with websites of universities. I saw a beautiful exhibit at the Cambridge University Library a few years ago when I was at a conference there. That was on, it was titled The Footprint of the Lion. So it was about the documents that are in Cambridge Library to do with Newton's life. And many of them have to do with alchemy and his very strong interest in Temple of Solomon. So the texts are being made online by scholars. So people, it's coming out, Crystal. It's getting out more and more.
Absolutely.
And it's being taken seriously. And it should be taken seriously.
Yeah.
Because it was sensitive to who they were.
But you know what, though?
Yeah,
but you know what, though? I think that also people are ready for it. And I know we were talking about that. We talked, because I think that 20, 30 years ago, people would have been like, no. It's too weird. It's too crazy. Get me out of here. But I think that now people are, you know, and the thing is, it's facts. It's not even about hearsay. It's a fact that Isaac Newton did these type of experiments and did a lot of hermetic and alchemical experiments that were, you know, based on ancient traditions. So I think people also have to understand and get their head out of the sand and say, okay, I think we need to have a very different look at history in general, not only in terms of like the history, but also even about religion, even about science, because a lot of it is, you know, a lot of it has a lot of magic based. But Anna has an interesting question here. And I was actually wondering as well, she says, what is the meaning of the black and white tiles? Because I know you're seeing in buildings, but what is the actual meaning of the black and white tiles?
Again, that has to do with the law of duality and law of polarity. That is manifest, but also the sense of the harmonious, the disharmonious, the good and the evil. That these are things that are faced and dealt with, and we have to pass through them. And it's also part of the God geometricizing, the divine geometricizing.
Kind of like a yin and yang, almost, if you will.
Exactly. Yeah, very much so.
Okay.
And actually, part of the symbolism, I think Anna and you and the others will really enjoy along these lines, is we're going to go down through the nave and we're going to come into the crossing where the great transepts are, and we're going to look up, and this is what we see. And we see up into the dome. And you'll see depicted around it, it's the titular saint, or the saint the church is named after, of course, is St. Paul. And St. Paul is known for his, for example, on the road to Damascus, he has the experience of the cosmic consciousness, of the Christ consciousness. And that's part of what's depicted here. He comes into that deeper spiritual understanding, and he wants to then share that with the world. And it's actually part of the eightfold structure, regeneration, you know, that's associated with baptismal fonts, but also with here, the eightfold after the 7 days of creation, there's that new beginning. And we look up into the dome of heaven here, that is exalted up. There's actually a dome above this. That was very ingenious, the way that Hook and Wren used a shape that's called the catenary. It's like if you ever seen a hanging chain, the way it looks, that actually, if you invert it, it's extremely good for distributing forces. And they use that to make the domes of St. Paul's Cathedral, and have this large one in here as well. So this is a way of culmination. And if we go outside in the exterior, from an esoteric viewpoint, it's very intriguing. There's a sculpture high up, it says Resurgam, or there's that rebirth or resurrection. We see a phoenix here that's being reborn from the ashes, because in part, outwardly, it's because part of the building of St. Paul's Cathedral, it's starting in 1699, being finished 1711, but it's in the wake of the Great Fire of London in 1666. So Wren was involved with many building of churches and architecture and the town plan in London. And he thought this is a befitting symbol of this, but also of our inner spiritual regeneration, rising up from the ashes and challenges in our life, being reborn, rising up like a phoenix. And it's very befitting to that the cathedral would do that and also convey that to us.
Yeah.
So I'll just do a bit of recap. We can do an exercise. We have more question and answers.
Sure.
Maybe after the exercise. Does that sound good?
That sounds perfect.
Okay. So we've been looking at the concept of the temple, and we're identifying it as we are the temple, that our body, and we house the divine nature with us, and we're in the image of the divine, and we have our capacity to create, to visualize, to reason. All these are divine attributes associated with the divine and the master within the temple. For Rosicrucians, an important micro-temple is in their home is their home sanctum, which is the sacred center of their home. You'll see it depicted here with the rose cross and the candles, and there's also a mirror here where the Rosicrucian lessons are studied, and you can put various sacred items here. So there's that mini temple in the home of the Rosicrucians. And also when we turn into meditate, we can think of like we're going into our inner sanctuary. And that's a form of the temple in a micro way. And we've talked about built temples like the Rosicrucian temple in San Jose, but also temples that you're used to or various spiritual traditions. They are the built environment. That's another form of the temple that interlocks or interconnects with these. We're going to apply the instructions of booklet Liber 777 that were in that Nicomedes Gomez book on the temple of the human, or I should say the painting of the temple, the human, or the know thyself. Here's a pen and ink drawing showing a person attuning at the time of reading their lessons. They have their two candles here. There's also the fire of the hearth, but they're seeing the celestial sanctum or the cathedral of the soul, but it could take another religious form or a non-religious form that they're attuning with the cosmic, which we're going to do shortly. It's associated also with that inner divine archetype, which all temples form. We also can think of our earth as a great temple where we learn, we grow up, we're initiated, we see various lessons of nature. It has the east, west, north, and south to orientate us. And from there, we move out to the very temple of the cosmos, the divine temple, and showing the Cat's Paw Nebula, which is suggestive of the entirety of the cosmos, the system and order. And that draws us back in an overarching and encompassing way to Nicomedes Gomez's painting on the temple of human or temple of humanity and know thyself, which gathers together in one way all these different forms of the temple we have in an inspiring way. And it'll lead us into our meditation on Liber 777's instructions. So at this time, if you're ready, we'll have a period of meditation.
Would it be okay if we did a bit of the singing bowl, just to sort of use vibration, if that's okay with you? Just one or two notes? Sure.
Sure, okay.
Yeah, I'll just get that going. I find with me, meditation always helps me. So I'll just start the singing bowl and just do 3 rings.
Okay, thank you.
I'll let you begin the meditation.
So I invite everyone, if they haven't already, to close your eyes after seeing the inspiring image of the temple of the humanity or know thyself. We can think of ourselves as a temple, the holy temple of the body, connecting with the divine within, the master within the holy temple houses. But through meditation, we'll reach out to other forms of the temple in a unified way, an experience of unity. This time, I'd like to just let go of the cares of the day and get comfortable, seated. Enjoy the gentle rhythms of your breath, possibly breathing a little deeper than usual, feeling that incoming vital life force, that invigoration, that enrichment. We'll have this breathing as a application of the Rosicrucian law of purification. And as we turn inward, feel increasing the presence of the divine within our unified nature. Meditation is both highly re-energizing and restive. And we are grateful to know this meditation practices. This way we'll apply the law of gratitude. One of the beautiful things about the law of gratitude is it immediately evokes the law of cosmic attunement. It helps us attune with the cosmic. It helps us attune with the divine within. It helps us to be receptive to our inner self. I invite you to say with me a traditional Rosicrucian prayer and invocation. You may wish to repeat after me or say your own invocation. May the divine essence of the cosmic infuse my being and cleanse me of all impurities of mind and body, that I may enter the celestial sanctum and attune in pureness and in worthiness. And we'll use a traditional Rosicrucian phrase that means, so be it in truth. It is, so mote it be. Now I invite you to use all your imaginative capacity and psychic faculties to visualize yourself rising up from the room you're at, the building, the home, rising up over it, even up over your neighborhood now. Visualize yourself rising up faster and faster, up over your city or town or geographic area, enjoying the exhilaration of the ascent. Using your imagination and psychic capacity, keep rising up higher and higher, even over your province or state. You can see below the weather systems and the landforms, the water systems, beautiful system and order of it all. Now let's rise up faster and faster, high up over your great nation or country. Now up over your continent and even the hemisphere where you dwell. Now up over the entire temple of the earth. See the beautiful blue jewel. See it rotating about its axis. And we can see the great satellite of the moon revolving about the temple of the earth. And let us rise up higher and higher, going faster and faster for our psychic capacity and imagination faculties. To see now our solar system, the great fiery ball of the sun, our local star, and the huge planet of Jupiter and Saturn with its ring, and the other smaller planets, Mercury, Mars, and Venus, and the others. And let's pass right out from beautiful elliptical orbits, proven to be such by the traditional Rosicrucian, Sir Isaac Newton. His laws of planetary motion, and we'll rise up higher and higher past our solar system and myriad stars and stellar phenomena, the nebula and the quasars and the pulsars and even the black holes, helping balance the universe. So we rise up higher and higher. And we sense that we're within the great Milky Way galaxy and its great spiraling arms rotating about its center, similar to how the Earth rotates about its axis. And let's exit even from the great arm of the Milky Way galaxy, our local home, and look back at its wondrous system and order, revolving about its center where there's a great, huge black hole. And let us continue to rise up higher and higher past myriad stars and asteroids and past stellar webs connecting the stars and the galaxies, their different forms, some spiraling. And we even see now as we rise higher and higher past clusters of galaxies, many galaxies clustered together. Keep rising faster and faster and enjoying the exhilaration of the ascent. Use all your spiritual inner force to rise up. When we reach the heights of the celestial sanctum, we'll be passive and let go. And for now, use your inner spiritual force and enjoy the exhilaration of the ascent past myriad sentient beings, as all ranges of life forms into the cosmos, past clusters of galaxies and nebula and galaxies, and even clusters of galaxies known as superclusters of galaxies by physicists and astronomers. Sense the stupendous harmony and music of the spheres, the wondrous beauty, the awe-inspiring nature of it, like the great temple of the divine before us. It's not only its form or its function, but the state of awe that it brings into us, just like an earthly temple they're modeled on this great view of the cosmos. As we rise up higher and higher, faster and faster, way beyond the speed of light, as we transcend space and time, I think now you may get a sense that the entire cosmos is revolving about a great axis spoken of by the ancients and even to the modern period. That the entire universe is revolving about an axis. Just like ourselves and our lives revolve about the axis that is in our spinal column, and the earth revolves about its axis, and our solar system revolves about the sun, and our Milky Way galaxy revolves about its great black hole center. So the entirety of the universe revolves about its great cosmic axis. Sense the great circular motion of the universe, and sense the presence of the cosmic axis, and move faster and faster towards that cosmic axis, particularly towards its midpoint. And when you come to it, slow up and dwell there a while at the center of the cosmos. But as we rose up to the heights of the celestial sanctum, we also provide the Rosicrucian law of correspondence, as above, so below. Whereas we rose up higher and higher, we went deeper and deeper into ourselves. So we're now at the center of the cosmos, at the center of our being. And let us dwell there for a while, taking in the inspiring, stupendous motion all about us, mirroring the deep harmony and order deep within us through the divine within. Applying the law of silence and the law of cosmic attunement. Now we've applied the temple as the holy temple with our master within, but also the temple of the earth and the temple of the cosmos, which is the divine temple, the temple of God. Let us apply the temple again. I invite you, we'll apply the instructions of the key Rosicrucian booklet on meditation, Liber 777. I invite you to picture your own celestial sanctum. It may be an inspiring temple on earth. It may be a sacred grove or special place in nature for you, maybe along a seashore or lake shore or a high hill or mountain vantage point that suggests that experience of cosmic consciousness. Maybe the Rosicrucian temple I showed you. Picture now your own sacred space. Fill it in with its sights and sounds and psychic impressions, your deep spiritual experiences in life. And you may wish to picture all those who are part of this presentation together there, seated there with you. Our spiritual masters there, visible and invisible masters, ascended beings, divine beings, all with us at the heights of your celestial sanctum. Maybe spiritual symbols on stained glass windows or burning incense, symbolizing the law of transmutation or transformation. Fill in your inspiring personal sacred space. Make it real, make it vital. In a little while, we'll release our visualization. We'll apply the law's visualization and the mystical exercise of the Rosicrucians on visualization. And for now, continue to visualize being in your personal celestial sanctum, the center of your being, the center of the cosmos. Soon we'll release our visualization. I'll indicate when. Feel the exhilaration of being at this high point of consciousness. Feel the tremendously high rates of vibration throughout your being, charging you in your celestial sanctum. And when you're ready, release your visualization and let us dwell again in silence and be receptive and feel all there is to feel and surrender to the divine within now. Let's continue to dwell in silence, receptive to any impressions that may come deep within our divine nature. Just enjoy the enrichment, the regeneration, the healing, the making whole now. Now, before we descend from the heights of celestial sanctum, let us undertake further spiritual operations, what Rosicrucians refer to as work and worship. Work as in our mission in life and our spiritualized actions for our well-being of ourselves and others. And worship to mean divine communion that we're doing now as well, with that attunement with the divine consciousness. Let us radiate love and well-being to all those in need. Rosicrucians referred this to as metaphysical aid or remote healing. You may wish to picture those that you know who are in guidance or need of guidance and healing. The Rosicrucian Order has various persons, members, and students petition it or receive medical physical aid for their guidance and healing. You may wish to radiate love and well-being to them. You may wish to radiate love and well-being to all sentient beings throughout the cosmos, all expressions of intelligence that we rose up with through the heights of the celestial sanctum. You may wish to picture this love and well-being radiating out from your heart and mind like a great floodlight filling the universe, reaching all those in need. Just as we rose up with tremendous rapidity, use great spiritual force to radiate love and well-being out from you, to reach out to all those in need throughout the cosmos, like a great white light filling the universe. Just let it flow out. Enjoy the exhilaration. Once we're properly attuned, the love will just flow out without any conscious effort. And when that starts to happen, I think you'll find that it starts to speed up. You know you're reaching those in need. And when that happens, just continue to surrender without any conscious effort and just let the radiations of love and well-being flow out from the center of your being at the center of the cosmos. Before we formally conclude this period of sending metaphysical aid, as the radiations of love and well-being flow out from you and filling the cosmos, you may wish to picture your mind flowing out and filling the cosmos, becoming the cosmic mind, being one with the divine consciousness, being one with the one now. Soon we'll formally conclude our period of sending metaphysical aid, but we'll continue our meditation a while longer. To conclude this period of absent healing, I invite you to say with me now, if it pleases the cosmic, it is done, so mote it be. Now let us dwell at the heights of the celestial sanctum, one with the cosmic mind, experiencing as the cosmic mind experiences, being the cosmic mind. Soon we'll begin our descent from the heights of the celestial sanctum. Before we do so, you may wish to invoke the law of gratitude. We wish to extend our gratitude and thanks and radiate it to all those who have taught us well, all those who have loved us well, all those who have sacrificed or made sacred well on our behalf. Thankful for the example they showed us. It behooves us to exemplify in our own life through the guidance of the divine within, the master within. Soon we'll begin our descent from the heights of the celestial sanctum. We've applied over 40 Rosicrucian laws and principles, some that I've named explicitly. I invite you now, let us make our descent, moving at tremendous speed back through the cosmos, past the myriad superclusters of galaxies, clusters of galaxies, the great stellar web connecting the stars and galaxies, the nebulae, the pulsars, the quasars, the black holes balancing the universe. Enjoy the exhilaration of the descent, taking with us this exalted state of consciousness into our everyday life. It's back of all that we do. It's our true and divine nature and guide in life. As we speed past the galaxies and the stars, I think you'll see in the distance the great spiraling arms of our local home, the Milky Way galaxy. Let us plunge into the great arm that is our home, past the myriad stars, stellar phenomena, asteroids and rogue planets and comets. And see in the distance the beautiful elliptical orbits, the planets of our solar system, and our local star, the sun, and the beautiful oblate spheroid, beautiful blue jewel, the earth, as we come back to the earth and our hemisphere where we left off, our continent, a great nation, a country, our province or state, our county, and our neighborhood. I invite you to say with me now, before we conclude our meditation, another prayer and invocation. May the God of my heart sanctify this attunement of self with the celestial sanctum. So mote it be. And let us continue our descent down onto our home or building where we left off, into the room, lying down or seated or however we're situated. And when you're ready, you may wish to open your eyes, stretch and feel remade, rejuvenated, re-energized, reintegrated, regenerated, all the more ready for our mission in life. Understand more deeply, have more meaning, be more of service to others than their healing and our own. Thank you very much, everyone, for being part of our presentation and event tonight. And Crystal, if there's more questions or comments, we can take them now or whatever you wish to do.
Well, I think that was, first of all, a beautiful meditation. Thank you so much. That was really very, very powerful. And I have to say, there's something about the timbre of your voice that really helps to take us away, far away into the other parts of the galaxy and the universe. Thank you so much. And I'm really grateful that we're able to talk and to share a lot of knowledge that, and also for people to learn as well, because I think we've learned a lot this evening. And I know you'll be coming back again to do our part 3. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I just want to say thank you so much for sharing with us. And people, don't forget to like and subscribe, and really give us a thumbs up, especially for the kind of work that we're doing, and especially for the kind of work that Dr. McCaig is doing. I really, really appreciate it. And I wanted to say thank you again, Dr. McCaig, for coming to be with us. And so we'll see you, I think, in about a month or so to do the part 3. So that's great. And if you have any other questions, or if you're curious about the work that they do with the Rosicrucian Order, you can check out the links that we have in the comments below. And as well, there's a link to some of the different material and literature that you can access in the comments below. So this was really, I have a hybrid door who's saying this was an excellent presentation. Yes, it was. It was an excellent presentation. Thank you so much. We really, really enjoyed it. And yeah, so did you have any other comments or questions for us, Dr. McCaig?
I just want to say thank you to you, Crystal, for all the organizing. Thank you to everyone for all that you're doing, for everyone, your deep wisdom, your love, all the things you're doing in service and growing, and sharing your insights with me. It's great to be with you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I can feel your presence.
Likewise, I absolutely adore you, and I love when you're here. It's such good energy all around. So I want to say thank you again to all our members, and thank you everybody for being a part of this special presentation tonight. And don't forget to like and subscribe, give us a thumbs up, and we will see you next week with another presentation. So don't forget to get in touch with Dr. McCaig if you have any questions. Thank you, everybody. Love and light.
Thank you.
Take care.
Okay, bye now, Crystal. Yeah. Okay, wait up. Okay.